Hello, and thank you for joining us for Future Flash Thursday on Facebook Live. My name is Melissa, and I'm the admissions counselor for Kent State University at Trumbull. And we're just going to stall for a minute or two while you all get on. If you're already here and you're watching, if you brought questions today, which we hope you did, go ahead and put those in the comments. We'll be watching for your questions to come through. Our goal is to make this as interactive as possible and as helpful as possible for you to possibly choose a psychology degree or get a feel for maybe what a psychology program is going to be like for you. Or if you're already in a psychology program, maybe get some tips and advice on how to find a job post-graduation. So we're glad you're here today. Our guests are Dr. Melanie Tayback, one of our psychology professors, and Isabella, one of our current psychology students, as well as Sabrina, one of our graduates, spring of 2020, with a double major in criminology and psychology. So we're so glad for each of our psychology representatives today. And we also have our Director of Enrollment Management and Student Services, Dr. Ritter, and he's going to give us a brief welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. A little bit about myself. I was at Kent State Trumbull from 91 to 2000. I left and then came back in 2010. In between, I worked for one of those very large universities and just kind of had a feeling that I needed to get back to Kent State Trumbull for the basic reason that, and I tell students this, if you want to graduate from Kent State Trumbull, you will graduate. There are so many resources available. Everyone is so personable. You get to know your advisor, your faculty member, everyone on a first name basis. Everything is there in place for you to register. When I was at that large university, I just saw students who would just get lost in the shuffle, and I just didn't feel right about that. So came back to Kent State Trumbull 2010 and hope to retire from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ritter. So I see we have a couple of viewers on today. Thanks for joining us. Today our topic is the Bachelor of Arts in Psychology at Kent State University at Trumbull. Kent State Trumbull offers about 25 different programs that you can complete in entirety on our campus or online. And the Bachelor of Arts in Psychology is one of those. It's a very popular program. It's a popular degree in general, but at Kent State Trumbull, students may choose this degree for one of many different reasons. And so we're glad you've joined us. Maybe you'll find something in common with one of our students who's on today, or maybe something will pique your interest for something you didn't even think about for a psychology degree. So thanks for joining us. And we're gonna jump right into asking Dr. Taybach some questions. Dr. Melanie Taybach is one of our professors in the psychology program. Dr. Taybach, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where did you receive your education and what experience do you have in this field?
Yeah, hi everybody. And I went to Sacramento State University in California for my bachelor's. It feels like many years ago. And when I was looking at grad school, someone told me about Kent State. And so I moved to Ohio to go to Kent State. And it was kind of shocking at first how cold it was here, but I like it. And I live here on purpose now. So Ohio's a little underrated, and I hope we keep it that way because I like that it's not too crowded. I went to Kent State and got my PhD in social health psychology. I did a lot of work on stress and coping, discrimination, those kind of topics, and started teaching here in 2011, I think. I lived in Iowa for a while. I taught out there. And I teach a lot of lots of different courses. I kind of think of myself as a generalist. I love so much of psychology that you can talk me into teaching any class on psychology, I think. A few years ago, I went back and got a master's in counseling. So in addition to teaching psychology, I'm also a licensed professional counselor. And I started doing telehealth like this summer, and it's been a huge adjustment, but I'm glad it exists for that reason.
Thank you so much, Dr. Taybach. It was interesting to me that you said stress and coping and discrimination. Those are all very relevant topics. And I've personally thought, we all should get a psychology degree just to live in this world. And I mean, stress and coping are a big deal, especially for college students. So I'm sure you have those conversations sometimes with your students. So our next question for you is, what are some of the classes that you teach at Kent State Trumbull?
Fittingly, in the summers, I teach stress and coping. So anybody that ever wants to take that, please do. We do all kinds of yoga and meditation and every kind of technique we can think of, and you learn about how it affects your body. It's one of my favorite ones to teach. Like I said, I teach so many different things, but biopsychology, health psychology, cognitive psychology, I'm forgetting so many of them, personality. The cool thing and the tough thing about psychology is it's so broad and it covers so many different topics that are seemingly unrelated, but they're all connected in that they're all about the brain and your behavior. And so that could be how you think, but it could also be how you behave, which is the learning class that I teach. So kind of a little of everything. If you come here, I don't know if this is good or bad, but you're going to have me probably at some point. It's kind of unavoidable because we have not a ton of faculty, which again is a good and bad thing because you're going to see me if you want to or don't. But also, I think you'll get to know me because you'll have me more than once, and we're pretty accessible here, which I think is very cool.
Thanks for sharing. And we are going to hear from some students later, and I think they will probably both say it's a good thing to have Dr. Tayback. I've heard wonderful things about our psychology professors, really all of our faculty members, but psychology specifically, I've heard great things about the program, about the professors. So thank you for joining us today on Facebook Live. And if you are just now getting on and have questions about our psychology program, maybe you're a future Flash, maybe you're a current Flash, or maybe you are a past Flash, but once a Flash, always a Flash. Thanks for joining us. We hope you'll put your questions in the comments. Right now, we're interviewing Dr. Melanie Taybach from our psychology program. Dr. Taybach, can you kind of summarize the Bachelor of Arts in Psychology for us?
The idea of the bachelor's in psychology is not that you're going to get out and be able to counsel someone right away or that you're going to know everything about the brain, but that we've given you kind of a sampling of the brain, that you're going to be well-rounded. You're going to understand how people affect one another. You're going to understand how your brain works a little bit, some neurochemistry. You're getting sort of almost a hodgepodge of topics. So you come out incredibly well-rounded. If you choose to keep going past a BA, that's when you get really specialized and you get into a niche. But at the undergraduate level, our goal really is to expose you to kind of everything there is to know about the brain, which is overwhelming to some degree, but I also think it's so important that you walk out, just your brain will grow while you're here and you'll know just a little bit about kind of everything, which I think is a beautiful thing. I also hope that as you go through that, you figure out what's interesting to you and you can go and like I said before, get into a niche later, but just to expose you to everything that exists out there. The other big piece, and I always think that psychology is more of a class in how to be a critical thinker and how to be a consumer of things like research, so that you're not just listening to everything you hear and taking it in, that you're learning to thoughtfully assess and evaluate and know the limitations of research so that you don't just see one finding and think you've solved everything, that you can think through those issues. I still to this day say that my PhD was really critical thinking and statistics in a topic I happen to really enjoy. And I think psychology is a lot that too. It's being a really good thinker in a topic you happen to really enjoy.
Thank you. And who would you recommend the BA in psychology for? Why would you recommend that to a student?
Okay, I'm totally biased, but everyone, or at the very least, take a couple psych classes, kind of what you were saying earlier, Melissa, that I think it just makes us a better human to be able to understand how we tick and how different we all are. I think I forget that when I teach personality, people are hearing for the first time that, oh, wow, people are different from me. And there's a really strong reason why that might be true. And so really, God, it makes us better at being diverse. It makes us better at being accepting. It makes us better at, like I said, critical thinking. who do I specifically think would get tons out of it? The curious. If you're really interested in how things tick and you're really interested in getting at the roots of what makes people who they are, I think this is the major for you. If you really only like to work with spreadsheets, I still think you'd get something out of taking a psych class. Maybe you wouldn't spend full time majoring in it, but definitely if you're curious, and I can't wait to hear what Isabella and Sabrina have to say about it, but that's my impression.
Thank you so much. And we also have a psychology minor. So maybe you're not thinking you want to commit the 4 years to that being your major. Maybe talk to your advisor about doing a minor in psychology on top of your major that you're choosing. We now have a very pressing question. Anybody who's getting a college degree these days wants to know, what job can you get with this degree? So you mentioned grad school, you shared some helpful links. I've put those in the comments. So viewers, if you want to go ahead and click on those links while you listen to us talk. Dr. Taybach, what kind of job can you get with a BA in psychology?
Yeah, I think there's a myth that you have to go to grad school. I don't think that's true. There's a lot of jobs. And if you look at some of the links I sent, there's a list that's so big I couldn't possibly get through them all. I honestly think it makes you a better employee in whatever field you choose. So if you're going to a job that's not asking you to have a graduate degree in a particular field, I think psychology is a great argument to make during the interview. I know how to get along with people. I know how to critically think. I can consume research. My spouse works in workplace development in a real businessy environment, and that's the number one thing they're always wanting. Can you read a bunch of material, synthesize it, make a good point about it, and understand what you're reading and how to communicate it to other people? I think you can walk into that interview and say, I'm totally ready for that based on the experience I've had. HR is a great place to go. That's about how to make people function happily and well in an organization. Again, that's the number one thing I keep hearing is we wish all of our employees had more soft skills. And I think just having an empathy and an acceptance of people makes you a better employee and makes you understand that. Research assistants, again, if it's not that you need a chemistry experience specifically, somebody who understands how research works, how to employ it, that's a great thing. There's a lot of jobs in the mental health field where you don't need a graduate degree per se, like community support services, where you're not giving counseling or medical care, but you're helping them with daily living, you're helping them function in society. That's a really important job to have. It's a tough job, but it's a really important job. All of those come to mind. But like I said, communications departments, knowing how to deliver a message in a way that's the most effective. I think you can walk into that interview and say, I really learned those skills doing psychology.
All right, thank you so much. And if you're watching this psychology info session and you have a question for Dr. Taybach, go ahead and put that in the comments and we will ask her. Thank you so much, Dr. Taybach. It's really great to hear from your perspective. And now we're going to switch over to the student perspective. Isabella is one of our current psychology students. She's working on her BA in psychology as well as her Bachelor of Science in Information Technology. So Isabella has a nice two-sided experience going on at Kent State Trumbull, and she's doing her degree fully at the Trumbull campus. So Isabella, can you tell us what led you to choose psychology?
Thank you, Melissa. I actually am doing my Bachelor of Science in Psychology, so it's a little different than the Bachelor of Arts, but it's really not that different. I started off doing the Bachelor of Arts and I actually switched over just because I wanted a more scientific look at it. I wanted to be able to take biopsychology, and I actually will be taking that with Dr. Taybach. And it's something right off the bat, when I got into school, I was doing a minor in psychology, and I was thinking I was going to go into nursing and things like that. And I just didn't know exactly what I was interested in yet. So I started with a minor in it, and I knew right off the bat that I wanted to go fully with a bachelor's degree because I loved it so much. And where I'm at now with doing a Bachelor of Science in Information Technology, I plan to not focus my career mostly like a lot on psychology stuff, but like Dr. Taybach was saying, you are able to use it in the workplace no matter where you're at, because if you're going to be working with other people, having a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology is something that's really beneficial, and employers see that as well. My focus in IT is cybersecurity, so if I were to go further with like the FBI or something, having a human or social science is a good thing to have. So I really liked doing that, and that's kind of why I chose to do the full bachelor degree in psychology.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Isabella. Can you tell us maybe one class that stands out to you, or a specific something that was super interesting?
So because I'm really math and science based, I like the quant classes, the quantitative method classes. And that's actually how I met Dr. Tomich, which is a professor at our Trumbull campus, and that's how I got involved with research, actually with Sabrina and a few other students that I was that are in the same research group, and that led me to the path that I'm at now, which is my main love for psychology is research. I love learning about my main focus for research is traumatic events and things like that. That's kind of my favorite thing to study, and I hope that one day I might be able to study more into it. I don't know yet what I'm going to do as far as grad school goes, but I know there's opportunities out there as far as research goes. So yeah, that was my favorite classes. Anything that had to do with math and science and mixed psychology with it, I was good.
That's great. And it sounds like you have that curious brain too that Dr. Tayback was talking about.
Yeah.
That's great. In a minute, Dr. Taybach or Dr. Ritter, if either of you want to talk a little bit about the differences, this wasn't on the outline, but the difference between a BA and a BS, just let me know and we'll cover that. My next question for you, Isabella, is what is it like to be in a psychology class at Kent State Trumbull?
So to be in a psychology class at particularly Kent State Trumbull, it's going to be a smaller group of people, which is awesome because you get discussion, you get one-on-one time with the professor if you need it. It's more personal than if you were to go into like a bigger lecture that had like 50 people in it, where you really just kind of went there, did what you needed to do and left. When I go in any psychology class at Kent Trumbull, the professors are engaged and they're always making sure that they're having time with each student in the group, and you meet a lot of people too. So that was my favorite part, and that's what it's like to me to be in a psychology class at Kent Trumbull.
Awesome, thanks for sharing. Last question for you. What do you think sets Kent State Trumbull apart from other options that students have in the region?
So to me, cost friendly is the biggest thing that I point out to people is, you're going to go to a branch campus and it's not any different than going, like you're going to graduate with a degree from Kent State University. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize about branch campuses is your degree is from Kent State. It's not going to say, where exactly you went, because I take classes everywhere else too. And that's another good part about going to Kent State Trumbull is you have the opportunity to be able to, like, if I want to go to this branch, maybe for an online class, you're able to, and that's out there. You're able to see what classes are available each semester throughout the entire campus as a whole. And I think Kent State Trumbull specifically, it's personal, friendly. The advisors are very helpful, and you get that one-on-one time and you get to know people. There's student employment, there's any involvement that you can get on a main campus. Most of it is at Kent State Trumbull and any branch campus, really. Right now, I'm currently something that has to do with psychology. I'm involved in this summer undergraduate program, which that's people from every Kent State campus. So, it doesn't matter what campus you go to, you still have those opportunities that the Kent Maine people do too. So that's one of the biggest things that I found out while coming to school here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Isabella. We really appreciate your time and your sharing, and good luck in the rest of your degrees. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
For those of you who don't know, Kent State University is a multi-campus network. And once you're a student at one of the campuses, you can register for classes at other campuses. You'll want to talk with your academic advisor about that to find the path that's best for you. But the campuses are as far north as Ashtabula, and then down to Salem, Tuscarawas, East Liverpool, Geauga. We have many, many campuses in the Kent State system. Dr. Ritter or Dr. Tayback, did either of you want to talk about the difference between a BA and a BS? I think you're muted.
Thank you. The Bachelor of Arts is very open, so a lot of room for electives, where the Bachelor of Science is more prescriptive. So of the 120 credit hours required for a bachelor's degree, if you take the Bachelor of Science in Psychology, about 112 of those credit hours are going to be listed, specific courses you have to take, which leaves about 8 credit hours for electives. Bachelor of Arts is going to be, of the 120 hours, maybe 100 are listed, and that gives you 20 hours to play with. And so if you wanted to, as Dr. Taybach said, maybe go into human resources, you probably want to go with the Bachelor of Arts in Psychology with a minor in human resources, because you could fit that minor right into the Bachelor of Arts. Many grad schools will look on a Bachelor of Science as a more adaptable degree for grad school, but that's not necessarily the case. If you did a Bachelor of Science in Psychology, you might be on the same equal footing as someone who's a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology with a minor in mathematics, for example. So it all depends on what you team it with. If you're looking, I tell students the general rule, if you're looking to go out and get a job right after college, do the Bachelor of Arts, team it up with a minor in the field you're trying to go into. If you're looking to go to grad school, as a general rule, Bachelor of Science is probably a good route.
Thank you so much. We actually had Dr. Tayback, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just going to chime in that specifically what you're going to take more of is math and science, like Isabella was saying. So an extra quant class, taking extra classes in biology and things like that. The other thing I would say is it depends on what your grad school is. So if you're going to go to grad school for something that's very research-based, the BS is going to look great. If you're planning to go for counseling, it's a little less important. So get with a faculty member right away, an advisor right away. My philosophy, and I don't know how everyone else feels, but I think you got to figure out what you want to do and then work towards that, as opposed to, I like this, now what do I do with it? So the sooner you can get an idea of where you want to go, we can help put you on that right path.
Thank you so much. And that's a great conversation to have with your professors, as well as your academic advisors, as well as anyone that's in the field you want to go into. So start having those conversations. We actually had a question come in. Serafino, we're so glad you're here. Serafino said, if you decide to pick a concentration, such as in counseling careers at Trumbull, would this be a good precursor for a student looking to go on to grad school for clinical mental health counseling, for example? And is a minor required or recommended? So who would like to answer that?
I'll leave the minor to Dr. Ritter. That's a great option. The truth about the clinical mental health counseling programs is they're not super picky about what your degree was in. So if you decide to just get a general BA, that's not going to be an issue. But the beauty of doing a counseling track would be you're more sure by the time you get to that point, you really like this stuff. But either way would be fine. You're not going to get into the wrong, what's the word I want, concentration and realize you were off path. They all are going to work for clinical mental health counseling.
And I would just add that with a Bachelor of Arts, it is tempting to just fill in those extra credits with anything. I tell students going for a Bachelor of Arts, really consider a minor, because again, about 100 hours are going to be listed that you have to take, and the rest are going to be electives. And you can take electives in anything, that's fine. But a minor is about 18 or 19 credits. It fits in there perfectly, and it complements the major.
Thank you so much, both of you. That is great information. We are going to move on to our final panelist, Sabrina. She is a graduate from our BA in Psych and our BA in Criminology and Justice Studies. So she used some of that extra room to double major. So Sabrina, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us what led you to choose a degree in psychology?
Yeah, so it's kind of on the whole, I had the room, so why not fill it? I kind of did what Dr. Taybach was saying, was I kind of found the job I wanted, or I think I want, and then I kind of chose my degree based on that. So when I went into college, I thought I wanted to be a social worker and work with kids, work in the CPS system. And the Kent system doesn't have a specific social work degree. So I think it's actually better than just choosing social work because it's allowed me to kind of develop what I want to do. To where like if I would have went somewhere else and I would have been locked into social work, I would have had to change my degree. But because at Trumbull, I was able to choose 2 degrees to make a degree, I have more wiggle room that I was able to like kind of flow it into something else once I kind of elevated my grades. So my first degree was in criminal justice with a concentration of human relations. So that kind of fit the nonprofit human resource type of thing. And then I quickly added, I think even before I was actually enrolled in school, I added psychology just because I was looking at the roadmap for both psychology and for criminal justice. And I was able to even match it even more because some of the psychology degrees, because it was a human relations degree in criminology, they actually worked for both. So while they were classes that I needed for one class, they were actually classes that I needed for 2. So I even had more than those 20 credit hours, like Dr. Ritter was saying, to kind of fuse the 2 degrees together. I had classes that worked for both degrees, and that worked really nice for me. And it allowed me to change my career choice a little bit more based on the classes I took throughout my time at Kent Trumbull. So I changed my career 20 times, but I was able to keep the two majors the entire time because they were so flexible for me. So that's how I got it.
Sure, that's great. And you have an excellent foundation now to go into your career with having such a well-rounded, double major.
I've done a little bit of everything at this point, so I can do a lot.
Sure. So looking back at all of that, the 4 years of double majoring, what psychology class did you find particularly interesting?
I mean, honestly, it was the first psychology class I've taken, my first upper division. It was with Dr. Taybach, and it was personality. I was a little sophomore. I didn't know what that was. I thought personality was something super simple. I didn't think it was complex. I didn't think anything of it. I just thought I was going to get to talk to people and we were going to get to have a great conversation. And I think that is truly when I started arguing with my fiance more because he didn't like that I could understand his personality and all of his issues. And when I actually figured out that personality is so much more of a person than what people think it is. They think you develop your personality, but really your personality is who you are. And people don't really understand the difference. So that was probably hands down the best class. And then one of the last psychology classes I took, it was psych of motivation. And I think that kind of paired together with personality really well, because what motivates you is your personality traits to a point. And I think those two paired together really well. So I was kind of glad they were my kind of beginning and end. So.
Sure. Thank you. Now looking at your experience as a whole, not even just related to psychology, can you tell us about some of the opportunities, things you had that you could get involved in, things you would recommend for future students to get involved in?
Yeah, so I started college in the fall of 2016. I became a student employee in the new year of 2017. And that was by far the best choice I ever made. That completely changed my college career. I didn't even enroll in college until I figured out I was getting a job the next semester because I hated it my first semester. And then being there on campus and learning the faculty and staff, I found a love for it. So if I could tell anybody, if I give any advice, is to find a job on campus, because it gives you a whole different dynamic with the administration of the campus. You're no longer just a student, you are a coworker, you are somebody that they learn to know and that you learn to know, and you can make the best of it. Because obviously if you know the person more personally, you're going to have a different perspective of college. And that's probably been one of the best things for me, was being a student employee. And then, I mean, there's a bunch of things. We have a bunch of research on campus. A lot of people think it's a myth that because we are a small regional campus, you don't have the same opportunities. I did research with Isabella with psychology. I know people who do science and chemistry research. I know people who do mathematics. We have an esports team. We have different sports teams starting up. So there's really no end to what you can get involved on. I tell people a lot of times, the only reason that you would go up to the Kent campus and not here, like I know people who have given me every excuse. The only thing you're going to get up there that you're not going to get is on campus housing. You're going to be able to live in a dorm, and you're going to be able to go to frat parties. That's the only two things that you can't do on Kent's campus. Everything I found at Trumbull, I know I could do at Kent, on the Kent campus, and I can do at Trumbull. I've went to study abroads through the Trumbull campus. I've done research. I've had research funded. I've had paid trips. I've gotten chances to speak at conferences. I have been speakers for different academic celebrations. So I've really been able to do everything, and even honestly a little bit more than what people think they can get at a big campus, because at our campus I'm competing with 1,000 people to get these scholarships and to get these opportunities, to where if you go to a large school, you're competing with tens of thousands of people to get these. So it both allows you to stand out a little bit easier, but also it makes you work harder, because they have a different expectation of you, because you can't just slide under the bus. They know who you are, and they make it known. So there's no, like, honestly, anything that you could do at a main campus, you could do there. There's no difference. I haven't found any, so I'd like to know what the differences are.
Thanks, Sabrina. I feel like you already answered our next question for you, but I'll give you a chance to say something else if you want. What do you think specifically sets Kent State Trumbull apart from other options? I know it wasn't too long ago that you were graduating high school, making a college decision. What sets Kent State Trumbull apart?
I mean, honestly, even apart from all the things I just said, the thing I think sets it apart is the family atmosphere we have. So like Dr. Taybach had hinted on, is there's not a lot of psychology professors. I think there's 3 or 4, give or take. But while people like to hear that number and think, oh, I'm only limited to these people, you're not limited to them. If anything, they are limited to you. They have to get to know you, because they're going to see you semester after semester after semester, even if they don't like you, even if you don't like them, you're stuck with them. So obviously we're all adults now, to where we're going to make the best of it. They're going to learn what your career path is. They're going to learn who you are, your backstory, and they're going to be able to in class talk about, oh yeah, this is something that might help you. And they do remember who you are. They know who you are. They know your backstory. And I think that's the main thing that sets Kent Trumbull apart, that I found both in my psychology, in my criminology, and I even took an education class. And all those professors of all those different fields, they knew who I was, because we had 10 to 20 people in the class and not 200. We don't have the lecture-based classes. Like, yes, all of our classes are structured as lecture, but I haven't had a class where we didn't discuss as groups, where it's not just the professor standing up, reading off of a whiteboard, making you copy notes. They actually get involved in the curriculum, and they want you to respond. It's not just them spouting knowledge. They make sure you can reiterate it too. So I think that's the big difference with Kent Trumbull, is you get a degree, but you also gain the understanding more than just the knowledge. You understand what you're learning.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you all. I'll give you a chance here. Does anybody have anything else they want to say regarding psychology, admissions, campus life? All right. Well, thank you to each of our presenters. Thank you, Dr. Ritter, Dr. Taybach, Sabrina, Isabella. We really, really appreciate your time. And thank you, viewers, for being on today, for watching. Thank you for your interaction. If you think of other questions you want to ask us, go ahead and email me. My email address is going to be in the comments. If you'd like to set up a virtual tour, I put the link in the comments, so you can click there and watch some more videos from students talking about their experience, as well as register for a campus tour if you'd like. We're doing those on Zoom right now, and they're one-on-one with a current student being your tour guide. So take advantage of that. If you have questions about admissions or financial aid or anything else, please go ahead and reach out to us. If you have questions about what fall is going to look like with classes and whether it's going to be online or in person, questions about that, we actually did a Facebook Live earlier today. So if you just scroll down a little bit, you can watch that presentation, and I found that very helpful for clarifying questions. I strongly recommend you check that out. So thank you for joining us, and we'll let you go on with your day, but go Flashes.